This show is part of the Head Stuff Podcast Network.
It's only a real shit show. And I know that the show is only a real shit show. And I know, yeah.
Alright, Bonham. I keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is. Shania Twain it is. Throw your hands up. Chocolate starfish. What's he talking about? It's all that kind of Papa Roach. You know? Papa Roach. The dad. You know? And the son will be on the screen. And then someone's dad will walk in. There's Papa Roach. No, Dad, that's the fucking son. That's young fella Roach. What am I talking about? Listen. I had a lot of crazy names back in the noughties. Inverted Coma, go. That was one of my bands. Even made merch. Did I ever play anything, write anything? Nope. The Oxen, we had one gig. My voice broke in the middle of it. Well, kind of for the first half of it, really. Invited everyone I know to that. That was the gig where we finished our first song, which how to kick off a fucking banger. What a banger of a set list. Kick things off with Jealous Guy by John Lennon. I was dreaming of the past. You know, kick things off there with a nice 4 BPM banger. The Oxen, though, we had one gig, and we did actually write music. But then there was other ones. There was The Navy, which later changed our name to The Army. Didn't write a single song or practice. There was 1-800-GHOST Dance. Made one song. Never performed live again. 1-800-GHOST Dance was made with chiptune music, kind of a hacked Game Boy. You know, T. David, I suppose, and my rap alias. I've made a couple of bangers, but you know, the point I'm making here, son, is you're putting the cart before the horse. You know, you're there in Ireland, and the cart is in Australia. Do you know what I mean? And you're yet to follow it. Do you know what I mean? Sort of an idiom there. That's the thing about idioms. They make an idiot out of me when I cut them short. Because, you know, people are always cutting idioms short. Do you ever find the way? What's the deal with it? Back in my day, you said the full idiom, yeah, that'd be coming in. Yeah, that's like calling the pot, the kettle, fucking pot, the kettle black. That's like the pot calling the kettle black, yeah, I would say. And then, you have people now to be like pot kettle. And I'm supposed to fill in the blanks myself. People would be cutting their idioms short. You know, back in my day, son, that's always my dad, the voice of doing me dad. Are you having a pot to piss in, he'd say. You know, it's from the end of the day, most of the people here in South County Dublin don't have a pot to piss in, you know. Although why would you be pissing in any pot? Drains everywhere. They got drains. Anywhere you look, there's a drain to piss in. You know, you don't aim for the toilet, you know, but you know, aim for the. It's like you reach for the stars, you'll hit the sky, as they say, you know, which is also a shortened idiom. Reach for the stars, so you know you'll hit the sky. So you know, reach for a pot and you'll hit a drain. At the end of the day, son. Different character now, some reason. You know what? Boys fucking lucked out with pissing on things. I would say, of all of the things that the patriarchy is dominant in, not dominant. Dominant seems like, you know, success through, you know, hard work and merit. And I'm not fucking having a go of boys here, but you know what I mean. In general, the patriarchy and the kind of the unfair, I suppose, ruling and power and entitlement that comes with being a man. I would say pissing is probably like if you want to take a margin of opportunities for men, opportunities out there that men get that women don't, I would say it's pissing on things. Pissing on someone. I probably pissed on more separate individual things bursting for a pee, pissing in various locations, then every single woman I know combined, if I had to guess. Now, maybe that's also male ego here. Maybe, hey, write in. If you're a woman that pisses on things, don't actually do that. Don't write in. Don't tell me about that. But, pissed on thousands. I've pissed on thousands of things as a boy. Grass, trees, rubbish, next to a bin, a lane. Who's a lane? Chance to be fine now. I've pissed on, like, I suppose rubbish opens a whole. But I'm just saying, I don't think girls have pissed on enough things. I wonder, is there going to be a woman on her deathbed being like, oh, I had a good life. Sweetheart, but oh, I guess I could have pissed on more things, like the boy. I pissed on grass, a tree, I guess a wall, a toilet, of course. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's just, you're kind of, I don't talk about piss anymore. I don't want to talk about piss anymore, guys. Let me tell you something. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired. I'm in my fucking car again. I'm sorry, I couldn't set up the camera for this. Look, I didn't have the time, but I didn't make the time because this is my life. Do you know what I mean? This is my, I didn't have the time. I'm run ragged. You can call me Rosie and Jim because I'm a goddamn ragdoll ragging around the Christmas tree. I'm tired. Okay, if you walked into Keith Duffy's tires and you were saying, I've a bit of a bald spot, failed my NCT, you'd see me hanging up on the rack. I'm so tired. You'd put me on, you'd drive out, and he'd be like, plum, 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 and I'd be screaming probably. But probably you even putting me on the tire, to be honest, with the bolts and stuff probably would have killed me before that, But just don't be driving around me as a tire. What I mean is that I'm tired. I've low energy. I had a big weekend. I drove down. Let me tell you what I was doing. Right, I was shooting this thing with children in schools. Now, look, a lot more context would make that sentence sound a little less scary, but I'm not going to give it to you because as much as I love attention, I also particularly love tension to do with me. So I'm not going to tell you any more about that. But I was in a school in Wicklow. I had to drive to Clonakilty. I had to drive back to Dublin, even though that was the quickest way. And I was looking at it, maybe if I drive through, I don't know, fucking Wicklow and Waterford and Wex, I was looking just so I didn't have to go back on myself. I'm a go-getter. I can only go forward, even if it means taking much longer. But no, I drove back, then drove down to Clonakilty. Had a wonderful gig. The very hilarious Mark Maloney, fellow who looks a bit like me, but he's bigger. It's almost like if you took me in a clip art, just dragged one of the little corners out, and then just to make him bigger than me and put me next to me now. That's what it kind of looks like. And I'll tell you, very grateful for the people at Clonakilty because I had a big swing with an opening bit. I said, I was saying about how, I've made more friends from Cork because I never really used to go to Cork before. I would gig in Cork and I love Cork. And, I want to do the accent. So I'm saying, I was saying I have a lot more friends who are from Cork. So I've been practicing. And I could feel all the energy just fucking sucked out of the room. Because Cork people love when you do the voice to them. They love it. So I think it was kind of a vacuum was placed on the room because of the excitement in hearing me smash this impression of a Cork person. But I said, here you go, here's my impression. Wagwan, me brethren, wagwan. Which, thank God they laughed because, I could have had a twofer in the hole there. I could have had offended people in the room and then offended a much greater number of people who were not in the room, like the Caribbean. All of the people of the Caribbean by doing the problematic accent. And let me tell you, I'm living under, I'm not living in a cave, all right? Because a cave would get light when it comes to pop culture, what's going on, right? I'm living under that thing that you left out in the back garden, and then you lift it up months later, and you see that there's no grass there anymore, and there's little bugs. I'm a little isopod, in there. What even are they? They're not wigs. Whatever they are, little louse. All right, I'm a little louse living under a sample of a tile that you got before you decided that you weren't actually going to tile the back garden, but you left it out there, and there's no grass under it. That's where I live. Which is the reason I'm saying that is because I wasn't aware of T.D. Thomas Gould being totally ingratiated into the fine people of Jamaica. The T.D. from Cork who speaks with the Jamaican accent. When I was looking at it, and I was like, Jamaica love him, right? He's going on all the talk shows, and they're like, bro, why you talk like us, And he's like, I don't know, It makes for really good radio. And I watched his very impassioned speech that all the Jamaicans fell in love with. And I was watching it for a bit, and I'm like, he doesn't sound Jamaican at all. Until, right, he starts going, I'm red in the face from talking about how we've got no housing and accommodation. It's the Asians. Bruh, it's the Asians, right? Not the Asians. But, young people got no prospects when they leave higher education. It's the Asians. They just stay at home on the internet, pulling their plum with masturbation. That kind of thing. Farmers no water for irrigation, And it's surprising, shocking amount of Asian words that have the overlap there. So, look, I'm delighted for him. As you know, I've blimped it many times in London, trying to, you go to like Notting Hill Carnival, and I try and strike up a friendship with a Jamaican person, and I bring up the no blacks, no dogs, no Irish thing, Some of them have heard of it. It's great. A lot of them that haven't, they're just like, bruv, why are you talking about dogs right now? Why are you doing this? And to be honest, bro, I don't like being likened to a dog, but also I don't want you calling me blacks as well, bruv. Like, if we're being honest, mate. If we're being honest, I don't want you calling me blacks as well. So I'm jealous of the people of Cork for just a natural, very organic, completely unforced, and I'm not being facetious when I say that, kinship with the Jamaican people over the accent thing, And, I've always liked Jamaica. I used to drink Lilt. In the places where you would go to buy, like, pipes to smoke weed, they love Jamaica in there. They love Jamaican culture in there, so you kind of rub off on you, like putting a Bob Marley poster on your bed, on your bed. It would make an awful duvet. However, put it on the wall of your bedroom, and you can very confidently state to your mother that you smoke weed. It's mad that it's like. What you think of your parents, you're putting I had a poster of a alien smoking a big spliff, and it said, "Take me to your dealer." Clever pun on the "take me to your leader" kind of cliche or whatever that they're known for saying. It's probably a similar thing at the top of the morning. Do you know what I mean? We don't really say that. And g'day, aliens are like, I've actually never said "take me to your leader." And I'm like, oh man, we're the same. It's kind of like, no Aussies, no Irish, no aliens, What are you calling me, mate? Why are you calling me an alien, bruv? I can't fucking bond with anyone over these things I made up. What am I saying? Yeah, putting up a poster of an alien smoking a big spliff saying, "Take me to your dealer." And then, if my ma was like, "You smoke weed?" I'd be like, "No. Why? What makes you think?" Fucking play Bob Marley on the wall. Bum, 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 bum. Windows wide open on a November night. Could you be loved? Your lava lamps fucking go 90. And in love. How could you actually think that about me? How could you think that? Like, we just think, what we think of our parents is just they're like fucking mannequins just walking around. They're just Dunn Stores mannequins walking around with no brain. With no brain. I'm not saying they did, very intelligent people. I'm just saying what you think of your parents being like, this fucking idiot. You know, I could put up, I'm actually going to take the posters down and say, I'm smoking ganj when you're downstairs, you numpty. You know, you may as well put that up on your wall. And like, why would a young fella at 17 be stumbling in the door with a mouthful of toothpaste way later than you said you were going to be home? Slurring your words with a mouthful of toothpaste, though. With a big mouth full of toothpaste. Because then they don't know I'm drinking. And then to think that that's better. It will be, do you know what, lads? It'll be less suspicious for me to just walk in there with looking like I'm some fucking Colgate werewolf. Like I've been out in the woods hunting tubes of toothpaste. And then I eventually came to my senses and stumbled back in. I'd rather they think that than that I had a load of cans. You know? No, you're not allowed now. Like, and do you know what? I'm probably going to do the same thing. I'm going to watch those kids stumble in like fucking Colgate werewolves, go up to the rooms where they have posters of people, you know, doing actual ketamine. You know, like there'd be a poster of some new musical act doing actual ketamine, robbing ketamine off of a horse to snort it, and is on their poster. And I'll just be like, oh, do you have a nice night? How's Michael doing? Shut up. I'm just going to, because what you do is that it actually was very, I know looking back, it looks pretty dumb. Going in, obviously, with a mouthful of tube, but like it looks dumb. But really, I suppose what the kids were doing, what I was doing, was just making things so uncomfortably weird that they're just not going to bring it up. You know? They're just not going to bring it up. You know, falling asleep in front of the TV, you know, after eating an oven pizza with your trousers off, and then waking up, you know, with the duvet over you. I'm happy to live in the world where we never talk about that again. In my world, I got away with it. In your world, mom or dad, you never really want to bring it up because it was fucking harrowing to walk in on. It's just a kind of the contract, isn't it? It's kind of a parenting contract. But yeah, like fucking brazenly, I'm into this kind of shit. Do you know what I always found weird? You go into like the poster shops in HMV, and you'd be going through the posters, and you see Nirvana and Foo Fighters and Weed Smoking Alien and Bob Marley, because people used to buy posters back then, son. And then you see one with just a load of cans, like a load of cans. Like, I'm actually really into can culture, you know. I know for a lot of people, seeing like weed posters and stuff would be an ick, but fucking cans, like, and this is pre young dad breakdown man shed kind of shenanigans, you know. This was back when men would kind of turn their own home into a man cave as much as they wanted, you know. Before the shed boom of lads just drinking out there. I mean, I know shed's been around for millennia, but this was before but even putting a lot of, like, see that, look at that. See that, cans. You know? Like, can culture is kind of a meme. Like, the love of cans probably started as a kind of an ironic meme, if we're being honest with each other, you know? I mean, I love cans, but I have no desire to celebrate cans, to wear things with cans. But fucking posters of cans. And guys, I'm not talking about the bloody film festival. I'm not talking about, what would you rather? Walking in to some fella's gaff, right? And he's got a framed poster, either of actual cans or just the words that say the Cannes Film Festival. Because both are icks for completely different reasons. Like, there's a level of film bro to just have the words the Cannes Film Festival. You know? I mean, probably just someone with a picture of a load of cans. And like, sometimes they'd be like, this is a can from Germany. Like, it's wild. Like, people, as if people are into cans in the same way they're into like models of train or planes, you know, or different World War kind of infantry ranks or something. You know, people used to fucking wear everything they were into on their wall. But things are changing so quick now. I mean, to Gen Z, Gen Alpha, even give themselves a month to be into something, you know. Things are moving so fast, you know. Do they even give themselves a bloody month? And how are you when trends are moving so fast and you haven't really had the time to linger in one, how are you carving in those grooves? I mean, maybe you're not. Maybe it's better off. Maybe my whole thing of still being into the Turtles at 38 and Gambit from X-Men and Weezer, maybe I carved those grooves a little too deep at the time. And I mean, when you get all down to it, I'm really a person of very little substance, you know? I mean, you look at Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson, huge Lord of the Rings fan, huge Beatles fan. And he's made the greatest Beatles documentary ever and the greatest piece of media to do. He's made something better than the Lord of the Rings. And these are just things he was into because he carved in those fucking grooves when he was a young fella. And obsessive. And so I don't, you know, you wonder, when is the great, are we even going to see the opus regarding cans and can culture and loads of cans? You know? Get myself down here. But I also don't want to seem like some old timer. But anyway, I'm tired. I drove down to Clonakilty. and then I drove home. I drove all night to get to you. I was singing that to the young fella before I left. Didn't make things any better. You still like, it's a long day. But I told the family that I was driving back because I didn't want to be away from them for the night. I wanted to wake up after driving 650 kilometers to a bunch of kids jumping on my head and face. I wanted to do that, you know. But the reality was, I tell you, Cork hospitality is just, and crack is, crack? Did I use crack in a genuine way? I tell you, when it comes down to the Cork hospitality, and of course the crack, don't forget the Kjol, and of course the Kjol, it's really unprecedented. And so I knew if I was down there, and I was right, I was in DeBarra's, fabulous pub, fabulous establishment, put on a lovely spread for us there, and I just knew if I stayed down, that'd be a rake of pints now. That'd be an absolute, you could go into B&Q, I don't know, a rake, whatever, move on. Something to do with a rake. All right. Not all of these jokes, a handful of these jokes will be funny, all right? A rake, I knew I was going to have a rake of pints and probably end up fucking sitting on Michael Collins' statue, you know? Or trying to reenact that bit from like, Jesus, Mick. No, Mick. Mick! And then pretend to be Julia Roberts. Till our wedding day. I'd be doing that on the top of Michael Collins' statue. Do you know what I saw? I saw a review for the Michael Collins museum and home. And it was from an American, right? Bloody Yankee Doodle dickhead, this guy. And it said, closed Monday and Tuesday. You can see why his fellow citizens shot him. 1 star. Imagine being so, well, dumb, of course, to not understand which linear direction time travels, right? Which is forwards. And that there's no correlation to this museum. But also, to want to go to Michael Collins' house and museum so much that you hate him now that you couldn't see it. You loved it so much, and you're so disappointed that the anger you feel from not getting the closure on your love of Michael Collins has now turned you to despise this man and somehow fabricate some kind of time travel assassination. Or, or you're just thinking, typical lazy Collins. Typical, they're acting in his honor. They're lazy in his honor. They're not open. He was lazy. To be honest, if I had to fucking, sign a treaty regarding Irish counties, and it was going on, I'm like, oh my God, this is so boring. I'm a soldier. I shouldn't even be in this situation. I should not even be in this situation. You got your man Dev sending me over here. I'm the wrong candidate for the occupation. And then for them to be like, well, of course we got to hang on to the 6 counties, And that's at like 4 p.m. and I'm starving. I'd be like, oh, whatever. I'll sign it, whatever. I'm just, maybe he had ADD, like me. Very boring. Like, meetings are boring. So maybe you're just like, oh, fucking hell, To be honest, I know I'm going to get it. I know Dev's going to fucking shoot me out for this. But whatever, I got to get out of here, man. This is so fucking boring. I can't, this is before phones, I think a lot of people forget that when they look at, the demarcation of Ireland. That these decisions were made before phones. Not as in they didn't have all the information. They had plenty of information, but it was just so boring that maybe some decisions were rushed. Is all I'm saying. It's the first step it's the change to bring about change. But really, it was like, I was fucking started. There's a Greg's near the palace, and I was smelling it from when I went in. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Have you heard King George talk? Very boring. Very fucking boring. Very boring. No, but thank you very much to the fine people of Clonakilty. But I tell you, on the drive home, you find yourself judging things a bit hard. Like, I was listening to podcasts to try and stay awake, because I only hit the road at about 11. I was home at like 3. So I'm driving, trying to keep awake, listening to 2 separate film podcasts about the movie Heat, which kept me going. Not boring. And then after one of them, Young Hot Guys came on. And objectively, I was listening to it, and I'm like, we're really funny. But I was also thinking to myself, this isn't interesting enough, though, to keep me awake. And then I started judging it. You judge content on a harsher light, when, if it's not good, you feel like you're going to die. Do you know what I mean? You feel like you could die. You feel like you might, or even too comfortable or safe that you might fall asleep and die. Pull into that fine town off the M9, the Tiredness Kills, I believe they call it. You'd be pulling in there. So, I do take it back, my judgment of the other podcast, Young Hot Guys. That came on after the Heat podcast. Look, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying you judge things a bit more harsh when its use is to keep you alive. And then I had a lovely gig in Howth the very next day. The place where Granola herself pulled up, and they wouldn't let her have any dinner. So she kidnapped the young fella's son, and now leave the gates open. The Pirate Queen was hungry. Presumably there was no food on the ship. And so she did a logical thing you're supposed to do, kidnapped a child. It is weird when you have to kind of confront history, but it's so far away that you're kind of like, class? Cool we did that? Cool you did that? when the icon of something kind of takes on more of the meaning than the actual person and their actions. I'm not having to go granola. I've already had to go Collins. What's my fucking problem? I'm going through every Kathy Burke history book that we have, which is those two. So that's why I'm well versed in the life of Michael Collins, as you know, and his ADD and lack of phone, and Granola, the Pirate Queen, stealing some young fluff from Moat because the person in the castle wouldn't give her some dinner. Look, I'm not here to fucking you. Read a fucking book. You don't know what I'm talking about? If what I'm saying doesn't make any sense at all, read a fucking book for a change. Okay? Read a book, alright? But I had a fabulous gig now in Hoth. A couple of sun-kissed boys and girls out there. A couple of people been sitting out in the sun, getting a bit of a kiss, going mental now. Some of them, I have to say. There was a woman just shouting her shopping list at one point. She just started shouting, chocolate, bleach. So thanks very much for that. And I had a wonderful time. I was recording it on a camcorder that my father-in-law found. He found it off someone who left some stuff in his gaff, right? And he couldn't tell me where it was from. But what I found suspicious about it, and I rarely do this, I try and keep a modicum of, self-respect when I'm with the in-laws. I try and act like I'm the person worthy enough to, take care of their daughter. But when I saw this camera, I just said, can I have that? I normally try and be a bit more of a grown-up, I suppose, around them. But he's like, yeah, you can have it, yeah. Because I knew he wouldn't do much with it because I have to help him kind of do a lot of kind of technology stuff. I helped him set up like a Wi-Fi extender router. And then I noticed that it was still not very powerful, and I went to the original router and I saw that he was getting like 60 megabit broadband from an Air internet. He's probably also got a landline and no channels for like $6,000 a month. And I said to him, before I asked for the camera, I said, hey, who are you with for internet? And he says Air. And I'm like, can you just let me know whenever it is your contract is up? Because I'd like to just find you a better deal. Because like you can get like 500 megabyte broadband and 1 gigabyte broadband. And you can also like tailor it a bit more so you don't have to have like no channels and an extra 2 remotes in the house that you don't know what they do. And then he said, well, the good news is my contract is already up. And I genuinely almost like I salivated anyway. I did a bit of a mouth cum when he said that because I was so excited by the idea that I could, I'm kind of like the Predator when it comes to like changing service providers over the phone. The hunt was on when he said that to me. I was just picturing me holding up a phone with a landline, like a skull and a flailing spine, I was high, of course, the other day. Not, of course, I'm not high every day. In fact, I'm very seldom these days. I'm so bloody busy, guys. So bloody busy. Too bloody busy to smoke the ganj. Too bloody busy to take me to your dealer. But I was high the other day thinking of how funny it would be if they did, pedo nonce stings on like predators, like actual predators, like what are they called? Or they're not called urukai, but it's something like that. Young me's going fucking mental that I don't have that word, but you know what, son? I'm too bloody busy. I'm too bloody busy to remember the name of your predators and your Shreks and all your fucking, I'm too busy, son. I couldn't tell you a bloody xenomorph from a xenophile these days. But I was picturing just, we're with the Newcastle predator hunters. You're here to meet a child predator. And then the predator's like, Argh! Blows his own head off because of the shame that the warrior race would feel in being caught out. And that made me laugh thinking about that. Thinking about alien predators from the movie Predator blowing their heads off because they were caught by nonce hunters. That's, when you get to my age, son, you know, I suppose you have your jollies in your mind. You wouldn't be going out now clubbing. You wouldn't really be going, you know, fucking Eddie Rockets. You'd be having your jollies to yourself, in private, in your mind. I always say when you get to my age, son, because my mum said that to me one time. She's going on a holiday, and I was like, "Are you excited?" And she said, when you get to my age, son, you don't really get excited. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true, you know. But maybe you don't get as excited. Because I was like, oh, that'd be amazing. When you get to my age, son, you don't really get excited. So I always think of that. Anyway, what was it saying? Hoat, granola, predators. Oh yeah. So sorry, I set him up. I set up my father-in-law with this router anyway. So I'd already kind of accrued like a point. So then when he showed me the camera, I was like, "Can I have that?" And you know, maybe he felt like he had to give it to me, but I wasn't willing to confront that, and I just said, "Thanks." But what I found interesting about it was this old camcorder with an attachable lens. Now I've been looking for a zoom lens for my stand-up comedies. You know, I've been looking to do more long-distance recording of myself from across rooms. It's kind of in my new era, my new photography era, kind of my self-portrait era of recording my stand-up and watching it again. And so it had this fucking massive zoom lens on it. But what it also had attached to it was also like a long-distance directional microphone. And, you know, if I had to guess, it was a camera that would sit comfortably on the shelf of a peeping Tom, I'd have to say. You know, a bit of a pervert, I would say. Maybe they used to film cheetahs. Probably not though, you know. So I may be in the possession of some kind of police evidence. I don't know. But I'm going to use the lens anyway to record myself performing comedy, which actually, I'm going to tell you this now. I'm gigging. I'm on tour. I have this gig though. The big one is Vicar Street because I want to record it and I want to put it out as a YouTube special. Actually, I'm going to put it out as a DVD and try and put them in all the computer exchanges I can find, because I'm always seeing my heroes, mar hampla, your Darragh O'Briens, your Tommy Tiernans, hey, your Neil Delameres, you know, the people who crawled so I could run, the people who crawled through the shittest possible gigs imaginable when in the 80s they didn't know what stand-up was because they didn't get it on RTE1 here. These pioneers who carved out the path, who also have DVDs that say Live in Vicar Street. I want one as well, so I'm going to do that. So I would love to see you there. It's on April 18th, and it's selling well, and I would love to fill it out so I could hear all of your gorgeous laughter. If you're thinking about which one to go for, I'd recommend that one now, to be fair, because then you can watch it again. So that'll be on April 18th in Vicar Street. Live in Vicar Street. Might even get big lights. Probably not. Know me. You know what I'm like. I was going to put my name in lights like Taina. But you know what I'm like. I'll do something special for it, though. I'm very much looking forward to it. As I am the rest of the gig. I'm having a great time, I have to say. It's wild meeting people who you met when you were, was doing like sugar club gigs, and then seeing us all growing up, seeing people who might have actually been maybe half asleep at the gigs before coming again, and now they're like, gotta get home to the kids, yourself, or even just people who were kind of kids now carrying themselves with posture. It's a beautiful thing to see, the linear nature of time, until it gets too scary, until you're there in your deathbed and you're like, I wish I pissed on more things. Do you know what? I actually am at capacity now with pretend to laugh at shit jokes kids tell me. I'm at absolute fucking capacity now. Because the knock-knock joke has ruined comedy. People say it's the woke brigade. I say it's the knock-knock joke because kids think that they it's a formula kids can understand. But what's unfortunate about that, it's kind of like podcasting. People think that they can do it. And it's like knock, knock, who's there? The poop. You know what I mean? You haven't even put poop in the punchline. You haven't even said, my p. And then they be like, my poo. Oh, something like that. They go poop. And then you say poo poo. And they say, you said poo poo. And I'm like, you fucking said poop already. Do you know what I mean? You got to fucking bury it. Look, you can't be going, look, I know it's your first 5 minutes, right? But you can't be going out there effing and blind, right? You're ruining it for the fucking rest of us, right? There's a finite amount of fucks that can be thrown around on that stage, and you use them all up in the first fucking 5 minutes. Talking about your period. You're a fella. You're an identifying fella. Talking about being on the blob. How's anyone to follow that shite? That sort of thing. Kids are the same thing. Like, you're putting the dirty shit too early in the joke. Or, why did the hot dog... Someone told me this today. Why did the hot dog cross the hot dog? And I'm like, your premise is fucking whack, bro. Your premise is whack. I'm not asking you why. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. My reaction to a shitty premise of a joke where I'm expected to say why is probably the same reaction a girl has when a fella says, do you want to see a magic trick? Do you know what I mean? No. Fucking no. Why did the hot dog cross the hot dog? I don't fucking care, love. I don't fucking care. And I've noticed myself now just tapering in a little bit the reactions that I'm giving kids. Because I don't want to fake it, you know what I mean? I'm not going to be faking a laugh. I mean, I know I do it a lot. I do it a lot with grown-ups. But I'm not faking a laugh. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to learn. You come back to me with one that has, even if I don't find it funny, I'll give you the courtesy. But if I see the fucking cogs moving in real time, in your little 3-year-old eyes, then I'm out, Write it down. Journal it. I don't want to be the first pass on this. I know as a peer, as a fellow silly person, you want to workshop this shit, but it's fucking poison, how bad these jokes are. And then, do you know what? I made a joke to them, the kids. I said, there was a group of kids I was chatting to, and I said, here's a 2026 knock knock joke. And you say knock knock to me, right? And so one of the kids goes, knock knock. And I pretended to get a notification on my phone and then turn my phone sideways as if I'm looking at footage from my Ring doorbell, right? And then I just went, nope. Because that's how people are. That's how I am. But the knock knocks are going to die. Knock knock jokes. It's surprising that kids even understand them now. They don't even know what a floppy disk is. I mean, doors are supposed different. But, it's not some sort of like transient technology to get to the next technology. A door's a fucking door. But I suppose, is it going to exist anymore? The knock knock joke. Or will it just be dum dum dum, dum dum dum? Is that Amazon? No? No response. Is that a package? No, it's for another house. No response. That's how the formula of knock knock jokes is going now. Dum dum dum. Have you seen my dog? Yeah, they're here now, you pedo. Do you know what I mean? I don't fucking know what I mean. I do know what I mean. I just was trying to help you feel better if you didn't know what I meant. Anyway, look, I would love to see you on tour. I'm going everywhere. I'm coming everywhere. I am coming to... oh, nice. Okay, so April 11th. The next gig is going to be in Monroe's, in Galway. I would love to see all you West End boys, you West End girls out there on April 11th. The big one in Vicar Street, the one that you're already going to, even if you're going to the other ones, that's in April 18th, Saturday night. Dee-dee-da-da-da. And then I'm going to be back in Cork. He's going back in Cork. Dun, 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 dun. Cyprus Avenue, April 24th, 4 days after 420, bro. So So I may be a little worse for wear. Will 100% not. I will not have a single chance to be stoned off my bin. But it's going to be a great gig. I probably shouldn't have told you about that Jamaican thing. I could have done it again there. But look, you got to keep things fresh. And then I'm going to be in the Spirit Store in Dundalk on May 2nd. And I promise not to do a Dundalk accent. Ooh, I don't promise that. I'm going to be in Dolan's in Limerick. I will be hitting up your chicken hut. I'm going to hit up your chicken hut there. I'm going to have all the gravy. And that's going to be on May 8th. I might be hungry now is what that implies. Limerick's always great crack. So I'm very much excited to see us all back there in Dolan's May. I'm going to be in Waterford for the first time to help with the Viking defence that they're building there in the Bank Lane Theatre. And that's on May 24th. In Dunleary, I'm going to be in the Pavillion Theatre. And that's going to be on the 28th of May. And I spent a lot of time in Dunleary. Okay, so you can quiz me on that when I'm there. I am a local. I'm just the same as actual Dunleary natives, Marhample, Killian, Sunderman. So I'm probably even more. I was actually probably in Dunleary before him when I used to go to my dad's. He lived out there. So I'm probably more of a Dunleary guy than Killian. And listen, I'm going to be in the Limelight number 2 and Belfast. And that's on the 29th of May. And I'm so sorry about that joke I was making there about Michael Collins being so lazy. Too fucking lazy to commit to a United Ireland. I'm sorry I made that joke, okay? Unless you like that sort of joke and you don't want a United Ireland, in which case I'm glad I made that joke. And you're both welcome when I perform there on the 29th of May. And then I'm going to be in the Moat Theatre if I'm going to bloody get in. Made that joke last week. But look, a moat. The whole place is called Moat. I've heard of emote. I've heard of the Emoji Movie. The Moat Theatre, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. And I will see it on the 4th of June. It's my cousin Yusuf's birthday then. Omar's cousin. Omar's brother, Marhample. My apologies. And then I'm going to be in the Mill in Dundrum. And the in-laws might actually be at that, and it might be all like, hey, look, that's the camera you gave me. That kind of banter, Hopefully they have better internet by then. They definitely will. I'm going to get on that as soon as I can. And listen, I would love to see you. It's been a wonderful tour. People have been very complimentary about it. So thank you very much. I like it too. And I love you as well. All the best. Bye-bye.
It's only Galway shit show.
This show is part of the Head Stuff Podcast Network, a hub for the creative and the curious. Shows are produced in association with Head Stuff and the Podcast Studios Dublin. Find out more or become a member at headstuffpodcasts.com.